It's the Oculus Quest 2 headset. With it, you can immerse yourself with others in an artificial but incredibly realistic world to fight monsters or to hunt treasure or to relive historic battles. You can see the early videos I made back in 2007 which looked forward to this technology. You can read my book from 2011 which describes in detail how it works, what it means, and how it can change your life. It will tell you who you are, where you came from, why you are here, and where it's all headed. This will be the fast-track course in the reality you really live in. So why does the first page of the Bible use the phrase formless and void? Why did it start specifically with that, and then describe the events of creation after that? You know, we've reached the point where our simulations are really very powerful. When you use the Oculus and look at a canyon in the Brink Traveler app, you really think you're there. You can even touch the rocks and feel them. So it's getting pretty hard to tell our simulated reality from our own reality. Think about that. But there's more, and this is really important. Understand first that in the Oculus Canyon, we can walk all around the top of the cliff. You really feel like you're actually there. They call that feeling an immersion, but you have to actually experience it yourself to believe it. It is truly amazing. We can walk even behind boulders on the cliff and see clearly what's on their backside. We can touch and feel the rocks. We can even crouch down to hide behind them. We can look into every crevasse to see what's inside. Which raises another good point. We can use the scientific method here. We can drop the rocks, for example, over and over again. And what will that accomplish? Well, it will prove that the law of gravity works everywhere here, inside our own little universe. So where does the formless and void come in? Right here. Just take the headset off. So this version is also our reality, but it has no forms, it has no fills. So it's formless and it's void. How about that? The entirety of our reality contained in thoughts which require no size. We use devices such as these to hold and manipulate thoughts. But thoughts don't require any matter at all. And how can we prove this? Because God had thoughts before he defined matter. I wish to give credit to Dr. Sarah Salviander at sarahsalviander.com for providing the text I will cite for the next few comments. These comments describe how the actual original Hebrew words used in Genesis chapter 1 point exactly to this type of creation, by words and by thoughts. On one of her blog posts, she had a friend, an Orthodox Jewish rabbi, who also believes in Jesus as the Messiah, comment on the meaning of these words. Here are his comments. He says, bara, then, means to carry out and actualize thought, which is hidden in the inner recesses of the mind. Bara denotes creation, preceded only by thought and will, which clearly couldn't be further from a pagan conception of things, as evidenced in the so-called myths. This is precisely the concept of creation. Accordingly, Bereshit, in the beginning, is applied only to God's creation. In other words, before the world existed, this world had existed only as a thought in the mind of the Creator. It is the act of creation, therefore, that actualized this thought and brought it out into reality, thereby giving it an external, concrete existence. The entire world as a whole and in all of its parts, therefore, is nothing more than the materialized thought of God. Again, this conception is unique to the biblical account recorded in Genesis. The pagan accounts brook no such conception. Not even close. Those are the comments the rabbi made that pertain to our presentation here. Now, several things should be pretty obvious just by looking at our reality this way. First is this. Omniscience. God, if he contains our reality as thoughts like this, most certainly has omniscience because our ability to think and process thoughts at all, obviously is shared with us by him. So you can be quite sure that he knows and always has known all of your thoughts. Second, God is obviously omnipresent because there are no distances that need to be traveled in thoughts as we have to travel them within our reality. So even in our little canyon reality, we have to walk to move around. But speed is simply a rule defined for us by the Oculus. So we define limitations for ourselves in our canyon reality, just as God defines them for us in his own reality. Within the canyon, we can only run at limited speed. And it would take millions of years to fly to the Oculus stars, if Oculus even gave us a spaceship. But if we had the mind that contained the reality, distance would be simply a rule defined by our mind, not something that naturally exists and stands in our way. Third, omnipotence. A reality created by thoughts immediately gives the creator omnipotence. The Oculus Canyon demonstrated mass, energy, light, and time. But when you look at the headset, you can understand that we do not have to somehow pass mass, energy, and light through from the outside. We do not need any energy to create mass for the canyon. We simply define it. We do not have to pass energy into the canyon to produce the force of gravity. We simply define it. We do not have to pass massive, fusion-powered energy to power the sun and produce warmth and light for the canyon reality. We simply define it. So, seeing all things from this perspective, from outside the reality, helps with a lot of things. It makes any astrophysicists that claim the universe must be billions of years old because space is so very big and light only travels so fast look like fools. Look at this big picture. This is the big picture. The Bible states most directly that the things which are do not exist from things which can be seen. So just step outside space. Matter, energy, and all those limitations imposed upon us by God's rules. How big is the canyon now? Just look at the Oculus. And all the space and stars that we can look at inside the Oculus world. How big are they now? You know they were created instantly. They took no time to form. So the real question is this. If God could have created our reality instantly, and remember that at the end of Revelation he does exactly that, then why? Why? Why did it take him 6 days to make the first creation? Perhaps there was something he wanted to portray to us by doing it, specifically, in 6 days. You might want to take a look at the YouTube video called The Genesis Puzzle to see a possible answer. This little mind contains the entirety of the little universe we've created. Now, God obviously doesn't use a computer to generate our reality. But the Bible does say he upholds all things by his powerful word. And that's exactly, very precisely, what we are doing here. We issue commands which we call software and hold these firmly as commands within this tiny little model of a mind. And it's from those very commands firmly upheld that we allow individuals to experience our little canyon reality. So the two work together. The mind, in this case the computer, upholds the commands as well as all the details of our reality, which we would call data in our little mind machines. And then this little computer, this model of a mind, casts what we will see, what we will hear, and what we will feel to our individual senses so that we fully experience the creation, the canyon creation. The canyon creation that did not previously exist, but was called into being. And so we've done a small version of Genesis chapter 1 ourselves. Now God goes far beyond that, in that he knows everything we will ever do. Remember Peter's denials of Jesus. Jesus told him exactly what he would do before he did it. Then there's the other case, in the Old Testament, where God wrote a letter to King Cyrus, telling him exactly how he would come to power, about 150 years before he was born. He even called Cyrus by name. And do you remember also this verse? All the days ordained for me were written in your book, before one of them came to be. You can already see that our little canyon reality can be fully and completely stored in this little model of a mind. But since God's mind is so very good that he can know exactly what we will do before we do it, his mind not only can contain the rules, the commands for our reality, but he can contain the entirety of history, which is exactly what he says when he says, I declare the end from the beginning. So with God having all of this knowledge in his head, you can perhaps see how God can hear everyone at once and how he can number the hairs on your head. Now imagine that we had all lived together in a canyon reality for centuries. No one who had seen it begin would still be alive. But let's say that those people who saw it begin wrote down a record for us to read. So some people might become skeptics within the canyon reality and could argue that the canyon must be ancient because that little river must have carved the rocks so very slowly. If they had machines in the canyon to look at the stars, they could claim that the universe must be billions of years old because space is so very big and light travels only so fast. But the truth for that canyon reality and its universe was really this: that it was a reality created by words, firmly upheld in the model of a mind, and had been created within seconds just a few centuries before. And that is the situation in which we find ourselves.